You probably read recent reports of militia members basically kidnapping people at the border. So yes, some of our worst in America are heading down there to get involved in the situation. But at the same time, there are good people, good Samaritans trying to help these migrants out in a variety of different ways. And unfortunately, in some cases, it does lead to legal problems for them. And joining us now to break this down is writer for The Appeal, Debbie Nathan. Welcome to the Damage Report.
Hi, nice to be here.
Glad to have you here. So before we get into the consequences, what are the sorts of way that these good Samaritans are helping out migrants?
In Arizona, people are going out into the desert where since 1998, over 7,000 people have died in the desert from not having water and from the heat. And so people are going out and leaving food and leaving water and sometimes sheltering people who they find that are ill. And people are, if they see somebody sick on the side of the road in Texas, there was a woman who gave a ride to a young girl who was dying, literally dying. So, people are doing what they do normally, just as part of the human impulse to help people in trouble. That's what's going on the border as well.
And so in terms of the consequences that they can face, what sorts of charges are being used against these good Samaritans? And where is it most likely to happen? Are there some states that are more litigious in this fashion than others?
Well, these are federal charges. So the charges that people are getting are what's called harboring, smuggling, and harboring. Mm-hmm. So that's one. Another one is basically, defacing or littering public lands, but when you leave water or food out, like canned foods. But the cases that I've been looking at have been where people are accused of felony smuggling and harboring. And there was a case recently in West Texas, out in the desert, where actually a fairly prominent official, the county attorney of a county called Jeff Davis, and she's also the city attorney of Marfa, was driving down the road at night, and she saw some people who clearly looked like they were in distress. They were making like signs, "Please help us, stop." She stopped, and it was two young brothers, and the teenage sister was at the side of the road, and she was very seriously ill. They'd been walking for 10 days and for 2 days with no food or water, and her body was eating up her muscles because of this situation they'd been in. So Teresa Todd was the name of the county attorney, and she just put them in the car, and she actually called up ICE and Border Patrol because she had friends who were in those agencies. And then the sheriff came by and stopped her car and called up the Border Patrol, and as a result, she is facing charges. She hasn't been charged, but she's facing charges of harboring and smuggling. There's another case that I know about that goes back a couple of years ago where a woman in South Texas was asked, she was filling up her car with gas, and a couple of very young men asked for a ride, and they looked very destitute. And she's just like, she actually calls herself a good Samaritan. She said she always tries to do good deeds, and she wasn't afraid of them, and she put them in her car, and she was stopped by state troopers and accused of smuggling. She was kept for about 6 hours while they investigated. And I think they looked at like the gas station video and saw that there was no money exchanging hands, and it clearly looked like there was no deal going on, and they let her go. But she told me that she will never do a good Samaritan deed again for somebody. And it's very sad to hear something like that because, again, these are basic human impulses that we have to help people in need. Yeah. And when people are being intimidated, that is not a good thing.
So you mentioned that these are federal charges. So I'm certainly curious, in the past couple of years since Donald Trump was sworn in, has there been like pressure to do more of these sorts of charges, or is the situation effectively similar to how it was before Donald Trump?
Yeah, I had these stories that I was collecting, and I decided to look at the statistics, particularly because in June of 2017, the Trump administration ordered federal prosecutors to focus on this particular statute and focus on prosecutions. So by 2018, there was a jump. I looked at statistics. I saw that like from 2015 to 2018, which was the last time I could get figures, that's the last fiscal year, there was a jump of about a third in these prosecutions. Like they went up from about 3,500, a little less than 3,500, to more than 4,500, which was almost a third jump. And most of that jump occurred actually right after, like in the fiscal year right after this directive went out. So it does seem like there's more pressure and more prosecutions.
Are there any efforts, or I mean, is it even legally possible for either localities or states to pass laws that might help to protect Good Samaritans in these situations?
I don't know. I haven't heard about any efforts to do that. I think that there would be a big pushback from the feds, and I don't really know how states can respond to federal law. I think the fact that it's federal would probably make that quite difficult.
Yeah, I can certainly understand that. And you mentioned talking to a person who said that they were not going to personally get involved in these situations before, but I know that even if there's concern about some sort of criminal issues, a lot of people do want to help. Is there anything that you would suggest to people that might be a legally safer way to assist these people?
In Arizona, I'm not sure that there is. These are very remote areas. And the people who are willing to go out and give this kind of assistance are not just like the people that I saw in South Texas that are just driving down the road to pick up some milk from the convenience store. I mean, these people are very dedicated, and I think that's one reason they're being targeted. In these situations that I saw in Texas, could they call up 911 and ask for an EMT? Could they stand by the side of the road, maybe? Possibly just stand by the side of the road and try to give first aid, and call up 911 and just say that there's a medical emergency. I suppose that might work. It's a very odd situation because we usually consider, states all have Good Samaritan laws. You stop, you help somebody in distress. Yeah. You cannot be held liable if something bad happens while you're trying to do that. You can stop if you're not a doctor, and you can try to help and not be liable for the person's medical condition. It's a very unusual situation. I think it's a situation that's specific to what's going on the border now and to what's going on with the pressures from the Trump administration. So again, I think that we need political solutions to this. Possibly they might help before legal solutions do, or legal workarounds.
Well, I agree. It is an unusual situation, and one that's not talked about very much, which is why I appreciated your writing and your reporting on this issue. Debbie Nathan, writer for The Appeal, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching this clip from The Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.